Tonight on News 5 Live, Ian Haylock granted leave for judicial review to challenge the appointment as Comptroller of Customs. Delivery truck driver succumbs to gunshot injuries sustained in Monday morning shooting. Santander starts harvesting after a 2-week delay. And armed thieves target fisherfolk at sea in southern Belize. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
It's a fact that you can access unlimited services
Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Tuesday, February 9th. I am Marlene Cuellar. This morning, Supreme Court Justice Westman James handed down his ruling regarding Ian Haylock and the Attorney General of Belize. Haylock, through his attorneys, former Prime Minister Dean Barrow and former Senate President Darrell Bradley, successfully managed to convince Justice Westman that he has an arguable case related to the appointment of Estelle Leslie as Comptroller of Customs and Excise. Haylock's attorneys made two applications, one for judicial review and another for an interim injunction. Haylock argues that he was overlooked for the post. He believes he was next in line to take up the post due to his experience and seniority. Of note is that the Briceño administration moved the Office of Comptroller of Customs and Excise from Section 106 of the Constitution to Section 107. This means that the responsibility of the appointed Comptroller of Customs and Excise was taken from the Public Service Commission and placed in the hands of the Governor General on the advice of the Prime Minister, who is required to consult. Haylock is claiming that the government failed to consult and is thus challenging Leslie's appointment. The first argument, Justice James allowed leave for judicial review, agreeing with the claimant that Prime Minister and Minister of Finance John Briceño did not hold proper consultations with the Public Services Commission as required by Section 107 of the Constitution before advising the Governor General to appoint Leslie as the Comptroller of Customs. Bradley today reacted to the Justice's decision.
I don't think that the decision was surprising. The judge granted judicial review on the areas that the applicant was seeking. The judge just felt a little bit constrained in terms of granting the interim relief. And I think judges generally tend to be, and the judge cited several authorities on that in terms of restraining the executive. There's a principle in law of the separation of powers, and the courts are guarded to interfere in the authority of the executive and the legislature. And the judge mentioned points which suggest that the claim by the applicant is strong in terms of the lack of consultation, the constitutional mandatory requirement to have consultation, and what was done in other precedents from the region and internationally. So we're satisfied in relation to the arguments of the judge, that he was satisfied that there was sufficient enough of an arguable case in the circumstances where there's a mandatory requirement in the Constitution, so that there are provisions in there that says that it has to be genuine, it has to be substantive, so that what we contend is that that creates a precondition for the lawful exercise of the authority, so that if you did not consult, then that means that the appointment would be void. That's where we're going with that particular argument. And I think in respect to those notions, I think that there's ample case law to support that.
Senior counsel Andrew Marshallek also reacted to the judgment. Marshallek represented Estelle Leslie as an interested party on the matter. Like Bradley, Marshallek is not surprised by the decision that Justice Westman handed down. He says that the claimant does have an arguable case, but during the trial, he would further prove that consultations were had with the Public Service Commission. Marshallek also says this is an academic case.
I can't say that I'm surprised any, given the length of the period of time for consultations. I expected that so short a period could not have been justified except by way of trial, and that leave for the claim to proceed would more likely than not have been granted. I also say I can't say that I'm surprised that the interim relief claim was refused. I think the interim relief claim was ambitious. on the part of the claimant, and it would have been a stretch for the court to unseat the current appointee and leave it vacant so that Mr. Haylock can then vie for it.
This case may be lost by the government. Is that the way you are seeing it?
No, you have the first step taken saying that the challenge can proceed. There are obvious things the government can do. It can embark on consultations right now and conduct them straight through till March 26. I mean, the notion that having offered too short a period for consultation being fatal to the appointment can be corrected. The consultations can be extended. The appointments can be confirmed. The designation of the office as a 107 post can be confirmed. The consultation isn't about who is to be appointed. The consultation is whether or not the post of Controller of Customs is to be a Section 107 post under the Constitution. That's the consultation. The argument for designating it is to bring the office directly under the control of the Prime Minister, given the provisions of Section 107, and to take it away from the Public Services Commission. And the argument for doing so is that the Public Service Commission operates under too many constraints and oftentimes can't act as would be required in relation to such an important post.
Attorney Darrell Bradley disagrees that the case is not merely academic. He says that the Constitution dictates that meaningful consultations should be had. Bradley says that he does not believe that the post of Comptroller of Customs is too important to not be left vacant, since it has been vacant before.
It is not an academic argument. I actually think that that is something rather serious. This is the constitution of Belize, and arguments in relation to whether or not the constitutional precondition of consultation, whether or not that was complied with, is not academic. It could never be academic. It has to be complied with for there to be any lawful exercise of governmental power. If the Constitution says you must consult, then you must consult. If you do not consult, then there's an argument there that you have undermined the principle of the rule of law, because why do we set that out there? And the Constitution is, it emphasizes this duty of consultation. It's not only that I send a letter. The Constitution says that it has to be meaningful, it has to be substantive, you have to allow a fair opportunity for there to be response, and there is case law that sets out what consultation actually means. And it could never be an academic point that there is this requirement in the Constitution. This particular case has nothing to do with the individuals involved. There is an issue because, of course, when you're speaking about career advancement, there are individual people who are affected, and that cannot be something that is understated. You have individuals who would have maintained that my career path would have left me here. That notwithstanding, the main part of the argument is that if there is a constitutional requirement, that must be followed.
Would you agree, however, that the post is too important that it couldn't be left vacant?
No, and I think that the principles here are important. We've done a bit of analysis and history on this, that the post has been vacant in the past. There's no urgency in relation to an appointment, and you have a Public Services Commission. The issue is not necessarily the appointment itself. It has actually nothing to do with the office. It has nothing to do with the individuals in the office. It's a process claim.
Meanwhile, Marshall Leck explains that the case is not about the Prime Minister's decision to choose Esther Leslie, because that cannot be challenged. In fact, on the matter of seniority, Marshall Leck says that his client feels that she is as entitled to hold the post as Haylock.
There can be no challenge to the decision of the Prime Minister to choose Ms. Leslie over Mr. Haylock. The idea is that if the decision as to who to appoint is left to the Public Service Commission, then Mr. Halak thinks he stands a better chance, given the disposition of the Public Service Commission. But the designation of the post strips that decision away from the Public Service Commission and rests it with the Governor General acting in accordance with the advice of the Prime Minister. My client considers that she is as entitled to that post as Mr. Halak. On the merits, regardless of who makes the decision. She doesn't concede the seniority of Mr. Halak. She says that seniority that he claims is artificial and is the result of decisions of the Public Service Commission retroactively appointing him to certain dates. They in fact started in the Customs Department and moved through its ranks, pretty much identical timetable. There is a trend, but I think it's a reflection of a change in culture. And of course, it has to do with the change in government, change in administration with the recent elections. There has been a practice developed of public officers seeking to entrench themselves in positions, especially coming on to a general election, in order to create the environment in which these types of challenges can be launched. So it's no accident that these are being launched. When you see contracts being signed, in an election year for 5 years to take you through the entire term of the next administration, it's not surprising that there will be challenges to that. That should be anticipated.
The victim of Monday morning's shooting, 43-year-old Jose Santos, died early this morning at the KHMH. The delivery truck driver was shot several times at around 10 while making a delivery at Tau Tau on Mahogany Street in Belize City. A security camera captured the murder, and it showed the killer on a bicycle casually making his way to an unsuspecting Santos who was seated on the driver's seat. The shooter pulled out a gun and shot Santos several times to the upper body. The murder weapon was later found on an adjacent street, hidden in a drain. Investigators believe that it was an attempted robbery. Santos was pronounced dead at 1:50 this morning. News 5 has been informed that Santos is originally from Armenia Village and worked at a bakery in 8 Miles where he lived. An employee of the Institute of Archaeology was the victim of an armed robbery on the El Pilar Road in the Cayo district. Bamapan resident Mauricio Alvarado was driving the Institute's 2017 Toyota Hilux on the road in the Bullet Tree Falls village when 3 armed masked men came into his path. He stopped his vehicle and attempted to reverse when one of the men fired several shots towards his direction, hitting the vehicle. He exited the vehicle and fired shots in the culprit's direction and ran into the bushes. The bandits took the vehicle, which had electronic devices and an undisclosed amount of cash. Police are investigating. Coming up, fisher folk and their day's catch are target of thieves on the Southern Sea. is a spike in piracy at sea. Since mid-January and as recent as this morning, fishers have been the target of armed robbers. The thieves have been taking advantage of their vulnerability and robbing them of their products and their engines. It is a perennial problem that law enforcement agencies have been trying to tackle. Today, News 5 found out more.
As early as 6 this morning in the area of Saltwater Key in southern Belize, after spending several days on the waters, a group of fishermen returning to the city with their catch was robbed at gunpoint. The thieves took their cell phones, the boat engines, and their fish products. It is the most recent incident of a series of piracy at sea. Investigators believe that the attacks are orchestrated by criminal elements from the south. Commander Gregory Soberanis of the Belize Coast Guard says that there has been an uptick of these crimes at sea since mid-January as the lobster season is coming to a close on February 15th.
Coastal piracy or armed robberies at sea, specifically in our southern sector. Over the past few weeks, we've had 3 incidents that have occurred. The first one occurred about 3 to 4 weeks ago. The incident was reported to us, and we to respond to that scene, and we escorted the fishermen back to Belize City, where we were able to conduct interviews with them and get an idea of what transpired out at sea. The most recent incident occurred this morning. The perpetrators were bold enough to do it approximately just around 6:15 thereabout this morning.
The fishermen are primarily from Sarteneja and would spend days at sea before returning home. Luckily, on board their vessel was a monitoring system that was used to signal the authorities that they were in distress. This feature very likely saved their lives because the Belize Coast Guard responded quickly.
I was advised on Sunday that there was an incident in the Saltwater Key area. So we, as I said to you before, I don't have all the details, but we know that this happens from time to time out at sea, and of course the fishers are a target because that's their work, that's what they do, and we have always been concerned about how we can help with our systems. If the fishers press button for 10 seconds, we are able to know their exact location. We do know that there is an emergency, and so we are generally, depending on the location, can get to them within an hour or 2. And that was what aided in this incident. So we were able to tell right away, and on the Sunday event, we were able to rescue them fairly quickly with the resources from the Fisheries Department, the Coast Guard.
The frightening experiences have been documented by law enforcement agencies. In these incidents, we are told that many fishermen are injured and survive the ordeal. However, there is still a level of fear. Commander Soberanis, however, says that they are working to keep fisherfolk safe.
As relates to the first incident, we were able to locate 9 individuals who we believe to have been involved with that particular incident. They were all detained and handed over to the police in Dangriga. We were able to seize 4 assets where they were charged for various violations, port violations. And I definitely want to assure the fisherfolk community that the Belize Coast Guard, working along with the police department, fisheries, and our key partners in our maritime domain, will make every effort to locate the perpetrators of these crimes, and we will stop at nothing to ensure that justice is served.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
1 year ago in February 2020, the Fisheries Resources Bill was passed in the House of Representatives. The legislation allowed for a framework to be put in place for vessel monitoring systems. Its objective was to monitor that vessels were in keeping with the fisheries regulations within and outside the marine reserve. It would also increase safety at sea, as on board each vessel, a panic button would be used in emergencies, be that piracy, mechanical failure, or accident at sea. Satellite technology would then be used to pin the vessel's location and alert the Port of Belize and other authorities. But there hasn't been sufficient interest in the program. Executive Director of the Turnef Atoll Sustainability Association, Valdemar Andrade, says that of approximately 3,000 fishers, less than 100 have bought into the plan that, in his mind, can save lives.
There's a voluntary system with the Wildlife Conservation Society that you can reach them to put on one of these systems on your vessel. It also helps to, it's like an insurance system because it helps to track your vessel. So at the end of the day, if somebody steals your vessel, we are able to tell where was the last location that we saw it as well, you know. And so, you know, in that way, the authorities can help. It also allows us to expend less man hours and less fuel to be able to get to any emergency or incident.
Need all stakeholders, all fishermen to buy in on it. What are the concerns that they've expressed if they haven't so far?
Sure. You know, at the end of the day, you know, like any control system, you know, people are skeptical because, you know, of course, at the end of the day, the real objective of the system is to be able to catch people who are not obeying the rules and regulations, whether it's fisheries or otherwise. And so, you know, that's already an alert for us. If Dwayne Moody is a fisher and doesn't want to put on a vessel monitoring system, there must be a reason why he wouldn't want to do that, because the value added is tremendous compared to what you would lose by putting it on board. I mean, you can look at a sailboat vessel that's taking up to 10 people. You know, that's a lot of people to be able to put at risk by not putting on such a system. The other thing is that it has a real cost, and so the initial cost, while it's being borne through a project that is funded by Oceans 5 through the WCS, and we are also looking at raising funds to do this. We pay the initial cost, but eventually the fishers would have to pick up the cost.
Andrade says that the system is just under $500 per vessel. It has tamper alerts and it is solar charged and satellite based. There's also a $30 per month charge per vessel. The Belize Police Department attracted thousands of applicants at their recent recruitment exercise. The new intake would only accept about 200 persons and was approved by the ministry to strengthen the department. But what about the Belize Coast Guard, which falls under the ministry, the same ministry? The country's naval defense was created back in November 2005, and it is just about 700 strong. Coast Guard men and women are deployed around the clock, patrolling the internal waters and territorial seas. Acting Commandant Gregory Sabranis told the media that they continue to work on the law enforcement agency's professional development and don't foresee a recruitment exercise anytime soon.
The Coast Guard has a strategic development plan. That strategic development plan has been briefed to our leadership. They are very supportive of that plan, and so we continue to look at ways and means of how the Coast Guard will grow, develop, and increase its capacity to effectively execute its mandate as, one, the naval defense for this country, two, in order for us to execute our humanitarian functions, and three, how we can increase our capacity as relates to law enforcement functions.
The Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry has written to Prime Minister John Briceño regarding budget consultations. The letter dated February 8th expresses the Chamber's appreciation to be included in the budget consultations. One of the foremost concerns expressed by the Chamber is whether or not the government of Belize should execute a public sector wage cut. The BCCI reminds the Prime Minister that Belize's public sector wage bill has, since the mid-1990s, surpassed its benchmark indicators for a country of our size. The letter says, quote, Recognizing that there have always been economic, social, and even political arguments against an abrupt cut, the BCCI had adopted the advice from the likes of the International Monetary Fund as it pertains to attrition, which would have allowed the gradual reduction in the wage bill by rehiring at a rate lower than the natural rate of retirement or resignations from public service, unquote. The Chamber is suggesting that in the event the government decides that a wage cut is its most prudent option, it is important to consider that progressivity of any such cut so as to not have those on the lower pay scales equally affected as those at the higher scales. Government is recommended to insulate essential frontline workers from any such cut. The Chamber says that the government needs to rapidly take administrative steps to close tax loopholes, such as instituting a hiring freeze and commencing or finalizing a thorough payroll audit. The BCCI states that it will not object if the government ultimately decides that this is the most prudent option after it has judiciously weighed its benefits and costs. There's more news after the break, so stay tuned. Caused the intense flooding overnight in the western and southern parts of the country.
Yeah?
Do we need to renew the insurance policy?
Price Highway In a virtual press conference today, Santander announced that they have had to push back their harvesting for the season. It was scheduled to start some weeks ago, but due to the rains last month, they have only just begun to harvest the sugarcane today. According to the company's officials, despite the challenges of climate-related events, they are set to harvest 750,000 metric tons of sugarcane, which is 16% more than they harvested in 2020. Today, David Rodriguez of Santander updated the press via Zoom about what this year's harvest will look like for the company. They are anticipating increases across the board.
Our key data, as we were mentioning, is for 2021 harvest is 750,000 metric tons of cane. That's approximately a 60% increase compared to 2020 harvest season. 75,000 metric tons of sugar, 30% increase in production. That's basically what Jose mentioned about that the conditions in the cane sugar content are better in January than at the end of the harvest. So this starting earlier is going to improve our sugar output for this season. We also expect close to 30,000 metric tons of molasses. And we expect to dispatch to the national grid 37.5 million kilowatt hours.
Santander explained that the unprecedented rains last year wreaked havoc on the sugarcane in the fields and made conditions difficult for the company. Today, the company's Chief Executive Officer and Chief Finance Officer spoke about the costs of climate change on their operations and productions. They estimate that the rains last November will cost the company 3 to 5% in production yields in the 2021 harvest.
The harvest season in the end of May, we have some rains that were very difficult to finish the harvest with good numbers. We got more than 250 millimeters in 3 days, and that caused a lot of damage to the quality of the cane. And after that, we had to finish the harvest, all the delays that we have during those days, and because the conditions in the field were very bad. Then we got the two hurricanes at the end of the year with the major floodings that we have seen in, some people mentioned 50 years, the worst floodings that we have had here in Cayo. In my experience, I have been here 10 years. It has been the worst over the 10 years that we have been here. Luckily, the cane was already big, so the damages we estimated that are going to be between 3 and 5% of the production. But if these hurricanes would have come before, really the damages will have been very, very big. So right now, we are overcoming that situation. Like my brother said, that we had some delays on the harvest initiation season because the humidity conditions were very bad. The roads infrastructure were really messed up during those two hurricanes.
The thing is, we have to extend the harvest season until the month of July, and in May it start raining, so we have a decrease of like 20% in the quality of the uses in that month. So maybe in that month we grinded 100,000 metric tons of cane. So we have a reduction of 15 to 20% of that cane that we grind at the final month. And what Jose was referring to is that the flooding that happened in November, that is going to affect between 3 to 5% in the production yields of 2021 harvest.
Another matter discussed at today's press conference is one that Santander says will deliver a hit on Belize's sugar producers. According to the company, Brexit, the official departure of the UK from the European Union, has never been adequately addressed regarding the impacts on sugar producers. The principals at Santander say that the UK made some trade decisions that will see larger sugar producers sending their tax-free sugar to that region this year. This move, according to Santander, spells trouble for the smaller producers from a country like Belize. Presently, Santander sends 70% of its production to the UK and EU markets, while 30% is for CARICOM. CEO Jose Rodriguez says that decision is not a permanent one yet, and for that reason, negotiations are critical going forward.
This year, I think it's important to mention that past administration didn't help a lot in supporting the region regarding the Brexit and the autonomous trade quota, ATQ, that the UK government gave for sugar coming outside the ACP countries and the European Union. They authorized in last October 260,000 metric tons of sugar that can enter the UK without paying any tax. That impact was very strong in the CARICOM market because it reduced the amount of sugar coming from this origin that goes into the UK. Right now, we have been working together with the new authorities. They are helping us a lot and doing the necessary lobbying to improve this and so that the UK doesn't approve this for 2022. This is a very important aspect for all the industry in Belize, all the sugar industry in Belize, because more than 80% of the total production of the two sugar mills here in Belize has been going to UK. And with them authorizing the entrance of free tax sugar from other countries, like Brazil or other countries that are mainly basically dumping the sugar over there, it's something that will affect us very, very strong. We will have to work together with the government and the other sugar mill in the country to be able to stand against those measurements, because those things will affect us a lot, and the industry will have to receive that hit this year.
Last month, the government of Belize settled a trade dispute out of court with St. Kitts and Nevis. Last year, Belize sued St. Kitts and Trinidad and Tobago because they were importing brown sugar from outside of the CARICOM single market and economy without paying the 40% common external tariff. As a result of that, Belize's sugar mills, ASR BSI and Santander sales took a hit. According to a government release, St. Kitts approached Belize to settle out of court, and a settlement was reached. In light of that decision, the government told farmers that they can be assured of proper trade policy support from CARICOM, including the application of taxes and opportunities to trade directly with St. Kitts. Now that the matter with St. Kitts has been put to rest, Trinidad and Tobago are still standing to fight government when the matter goes before the CCJ. Chief Finance Officer of Santander told reporters today that while the matter is still pending, they expect that Trinidad will have to comply with the law, but that their relations with the islands, including their market share, have improved.
First, we need to mention that all the efforts that, in conjunction with all the sugar industries in the Caribbean, through the Sugar Association of the Caribbean, and the support mainly from the Belizean government, this was a huge achievement in regards of illegal sugar coming to the CARICOM market. So I think this is a first step forward in contributing to enhance the apply of the CET in sugars that are produced outside the CARICOM market. I think Trinidad slowly is gonna have to follow the law, and we have been expanding our market and our sales a lot in that market. We still have they are reluctant to accept it, especially in white sugar, because they are buying refined sugar from, especially for beverage companies that come outside the CARICOM. We are in a process of trying to substitute that sugar with the plantation white, and I think the process is advancing in a very good manner. So I think step by step, we have been moving forward. Our market in the CARICOM has expanded, and we are supplying the brown sugar that Trinidad consumes. We are supplying it with the local producers in the CARICOM. So I think we are in a better shape than we were in the past.
The Los Lagos community residents have been welcoming the inconvenience of traffic holdups as the portion of the Philip Golson Highway at the community's entrance is being upgraded. Our news team checked out the progress of the road rehabilitation.
This is an amateur video from a tour guide showing the condition of the Philip Golson Highway at mile 13 before the floods. It was a bumpy ride, to say the least, having to dodge potholes on the unleveled streets after the asphalt had been chipped away. The condition of the road worsened following the rains and flooding in late November. So when road works began on that stretch of road, it came with a sigh of relief for road users.
I myself appreciate, I think the rest of people should appreciate the upgrade of the highway, because for the last, I've been here from 2003, and that out there was bad, and with all these rain and this weather we have, just get it worse. So, I mean, it's really nice that, we had it fixed, right? I mean, I got my vehicle down, can't go out there because the road too bad for run, especially small vehicle. Big trucks and so, not too bad, but the SUV and cars and things, just like I'm banging out there.
Keisha Smith has been living in the 13-mile community for decades before relocating across the highway to the residential community of Los Lagos. She says for 40 years that stretch had gone unfixed, damaging people's vehicles and incurring repair costs.
All my life, the highway has always been a mess. And all my life I hear the highway and get fixed, never did. So finally when you see the highway like that, it's a real improvement. When you have a vehicle, it's a waste, because every other 2-3 months you need to buy a tire ends, you need to buy struts or something for your car. So it costs you just to be traveling on the road.
Since Saturday afternoon, hot mix has been placed on a portion of the highway, a welcoming smooth ride for motorists. And as the roadworks continue, the rest of the stretch will receive that much needed facelift. Minister of Infrastructure Julius Espat says that emergency funding has been set aside to fix major thoroughfares affected by the recent disasters.
We just came through 2 major storms, Eta and Iota, I believe. And so Cabinet had given us a budget to deal with emergency spending. And that is the work that we are presently working on. The emergencies destroyed a lot of our main arteries. The Philip Golson Highway that they are putting the hot mix right now was one of them. The George Price Highway coming out of Belize City all the way to the Burton Canal is another area of concern.
Gilbert Neal hopes that the area of the highway between the 2 gas stations in Ladyville would also be fixed.
That really need to be fixed. Yeah, I think from the gas station, from 24/7, go straight down to the Shell gas station need to be upgraded, right? Because there's a lot of traffic that goes through there every day. Right, especially in the morning. I mean, you're trying to get to the city, you have to get up early because of the road condition, everybody goes slow.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
After the break, Maya communities up in arms over a new lands agent.
Currently, we're using Smart Elite VoIP calling plan. We use it interbrand.
innovative financial services, is getting ready to offer a digital wallet solution, eCash. Studies show that e-wallet offered by banks are most dependable and secure. If you've ever lost your physical wallet or were robbed, you know how awful the initial moment of panic feels. Well, no more. eCash is strongly protected, and your money will be safer than ever. At Belize Bank, you can rely on eCash transactions to be fast and easy to process. You can count on superior service. The digital payment revolution is here, and it's time to jump on board and welcome the awesome perks that eCash has to offer for everyone. eCash, powered by Belize Bank.
Tonight, the Maya Leaders Alliance, Julian Cho Society, and Toledo Alcaldes Association are speaking out against the former chair of the Toledo Maya Land Rights Commission, Lisel Alamia. According to the three groups, Alamia is reportedly representing private interests in thousands of acres of land within the indigenous territory of Indian Creek Village, despite being aware that the CCJ consent order applies to all Maya lands, including those currently privately held. The release says, quote, Ms. Alamia represents that she is working along with Flora and Fauna International, an international wildlife conservation organization. Together, they're calling on the Maya village of Indian Creek to cease immediately their livelihood activities on their traditional lands to give way to private interests, unquote. The MLA, JCS, and TAA say that, quote, Alamia irresponsibly asserts that the area of over 12,000 acres is private property and not communal lands. The lands in Indian Creek prima facie form part of customary Maya lands. These efforts are aimed at severing Quechua livelihood relations with their traditional lands, a part of a global problem to rid indigenous peoples from their ancestral lands, often promoted under the guise of conservation and pristine forests, unquote. They refer to Alamia's role as a campaign to intimidate and harass villagers and acknowledge the troubled history with Alamia, saying, quote, it is widely known that the implementation process under Ms. Alamia was tumultuous, often criticized by the Maya people as lacking respect and good faith, unquote. The release ends by noting that the government of Belize, the Caribbean Court of Justice, and the Inter-American Commission for Human Rights have been apprised of this escalating attack on the Quechua Maya of Indian Creek. He's been missing for 3 weeks, and tonight Albert Ferguson Jr.'s family fears the worst. The father of one was last seen in the village on City River on January 18th. Since then, his family and friends have not seen him or heard from him. His sister Terry Ledland says that it is unlike Albert to go missing for an extended period. They have been searching for him, but they have no clues as to where he may be. Ledland believes something terrible might have happened to her brother.
A week and couple days, my cousin from down that side contact me and ask me if he up this side by his mom or by his dad, and I tell her that no, we haven't seen him. So she was like, something wrong to her because he gone and come back yet, and this time he will go for days and like this. If he go in the baby into a dangriga with the girlfriend he had there, and he would have come up this side by ma for a couple of days. But this is the longest he ever gone missing, so everybody start get suspicious that Junior gone missing, where he there, call for work, they both, that whole they get to me and say, well, they are, make we know, if they up that side, we could try locate him. Apparently, I don't think that they took him from his house, I think they get him probably on the street or bushes or something, where part nobody no see or hear a thing from. So my thing is, I feel like they kidnap her and they hold her hostage. I don't know for what, I don't know where I don't know what going on, but I pray that if they even have her and he alive, please just let them go, or, just give us some kind of proof or something to know that they're alive still, because this no normal, none at all.
Your brother ever tell you if he have any beef with anybody, any enemies right there at the city?
Well, my brother, he, now outgoing person, he, I kind of, talk to you and they kind of levels their thing that they have any beef with anybody and thing. But either come either say, it got problem with this one, I want her to hurt somebody, they threaten her, thing like that. He not no bad person or nothing. We gathered the police, we gathered many villagers from the village, and we put off a very big search, which I have to thank the police and thank the villagers there for come out and help me, because we put off a massive search. And they have, as I said, one or two people who they talk and think they said this and they said that, and we follow up on it, because I can't leave any rock unturned. I have to turn all the rocks there any possible ways. So that's what we do. The police then be very helpful, and I asked them to please not close this case, because then maybe this could be one we could solve, even if he's not living no more, or if he's even died, at least just give me some proof, because my mom really needs closure or something.
The family can be reached at 631-4116, or you can call the nearest police station or Crime Stoppers Belize at 922-TIPS. When we come back, we'll tell you the story about a community that sprung into action to save a wild cat. A wildcat, an adult margay, is recovering from injuries sustained after it was knocked down by a vehicle. Reports are that 2 of the wildcats were spotted near the Corozal-Chetumal border recently, and on Monday night, sometime between 11 and 11:30, the cats were together when a truck hit one of them. The Corozal community sprang into action, and with support from the police and a local vet, Dr. Alfred Charles of Your Pet's Health Clinic, the animal was restrained and treated. Dr. Charles shared his observations, noting that the injuries didn't appear to be life-threatening.
Observation of the animal is I noticed there was a puncture wound on the lower mandible, and there was another wound on its leg, left foreleg. It was dehydrated, lethargic, and disoriented. Blood was being seen coming out of the mouth and nostrils, which I suspect it was an injury sustained to the head. At that moment, I didn't know the animal was picked up, to be honest. This is news I got after. The animal was treated. It was administered antibiotics, penicillin, given dexamethasone. Restraining it was a little bit tough, so I was unable to administer intravenous, which would be the best choice at that moment for it. So I had to do some of it subcutaneous. And it was confined until forestry. We retrieved it this morning at around 10 o'clock, 10:30, maybe earlier, where it was transported to the wildlife clinic in Tayo.
As you heard in the interview, the Forest Department transported the injured margay to the Belize Wildlife and Referral Clinic. And that's the news. Tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at News 5 Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, and stay safe. Good night.